Socialization. To explain the concept of socialization, I want to use an example that I'm sure you've probably heard of before. This is the nature versus nurture debate. Humans have always been interested in what causes behavior. Some have argued that it is the internal characteristics or nature of a person that most influences their behavior. Others have argued that it's external things, such as environment, or the way a person is nurtured, that influences their behavior the most. It's important to point out that sociology is a tool, or discipline, specifically designed to study the nurturing aspects of society and human life. You could even say that sociology is the science of nurture. Sociologists, in a general way, operate on the assumption that when a child is born, when they're a little baby, they are like a blank slate, or an empty computer screen, or an empty box. In a way, there's not much there. A child has to be taught and exposed to the values, norms, and rules associated with the society that they're born into. These things don't come pre-programmed in the individual. They have to be taught the individual. Let's use an example from American culture that might be helpful in explaining this. In the United States, it's generally considered rude to stare at someone who is different or unusual. This is hard for children because they're curious about things, and when they see someone different, they want to look at them. If you've ever been around children and their parents, you may find the parents constantly tell the child not to stare or to mind their own business. The child hears this often enough that they begin to internalize that value and norm and rule of behavior until it becomes automatic. As they become adults, they find themselves automatically averting their eyes whenever they see a person who is strange or unusual. This process by which a person goes from being a helpless infant to a full-functioning member of their society, this process by which they learn and internalize the values, norms, and rules of their society, is socialization. An interesting aspect of socialization is how the things that we're taught become automatic to us. Socialization is the process by which we learn to function as members of a society without even thinking about it. It's a curious aspect of human nature that as we become accustomed to something, we tend to think of that thing as being natural. This is part of the reason why most people think the values, norms, and rules that they grew up with are the most natural or the most right values, norms, and rules. Most people take the values, norms, and rules associated with their society for granted, and it often isn't until they have children themselves who don't know how to avert their eyes that they start to realize these things have to be taught. Many parents are very embarrassed by the behavior of their children because they themselves take the behaviors for granted that their children have not yet learned. Socialization is an important concept when we study childhood development, but it's also important for adults. Anytime an adult switches from a familiar or old situation to an unfamiliar or new situation, there's often a period or process of socialization that needs to occur. A new job, a new city, or even a new relationship can require the adoption and integration and internalization of new values, norms, and rules. Of course, the bigger the difference between the old and the new, the more dramatic the process. In really dramatic changes, such as experienced when one joins the military, or goes to prison, or joins a new religion, sociologists sometimes use the term re-socialization to describe the transformation that occurs in a person's behavior and worldview. As a recap, I'd like to give you a straightforward definition of socialization. Socialization is the process by which a person learns and internalizes the values, norms, and rules of behavior of the society or culture of which they are a part. Socialization is especially important for childhood development and growth, but it is important for persons in all stages of life. Thank you for watching.